Biscuits and tea with JP. Biscuits and tea with JP. Biscuits and tea. Biscuits and tea. Biscuits and tea with JP.
Welcome to Biscuits and Tea with JP. Today I have Jennifer Tarjanyi sat with me, who is a culture and leadership specialist. Before we get started, we need to find out what tea Jen's drinking, how she has it, and what biscuits she's got. Over to you, Jen.
Thanks, Johnny. I've got actually a little bit of a wanky choice today.
Okay.
It's my favourite, my little afternoon treat to myself. It's a rose tea from Fortnum & Mason.
Very well.
I drink it black. It's in my lovely Fisterra, which is my company name, branded mug, which Jerry Williams sent me from Smooth Accounting. Thanks so much, Jerry. And good old ginger nuts. Keeping it simple. Little bit bougie, little bit simple today.
So posh tea, old school biscuits. I like it.
Yeah, that's me all over actually. Little bit alternative, little bit traditional.
A good mix. Well,
Yeah.
I've got Yorkshire Gold that will please my northern friends, and I've got pistachio and almond cookies.
So you're going the same. You've got a little bit fancy and a little bit old school.
Okay. There's a bit of tea then.
All right.
Cheers.
This is great.
So, question for you.
Yes.
As you know, I work in the tech space, so I'm really interested to find out, I'm sure everyone else listening is as well, how you help tech companies with their culture. What are the problems they come to you with?
Yeah, all tech companies. I love you lot. I have a lot of really cool tech clients, and I've worked inside tech companies as well. I've worked in agencies and marketing agencies and techs and those kinds of things. So I kind of know how this works. And with tech, especially, might be startup, might not, but quite often this is a startup conversation. Particularly, the conversation goes like, Jen, we want a cool culture. And I'm like, great, yeah, exciting. Let's do this. What do you want to do? Yeah, we want to be like Facebook or Amazon or Google. And I'm like, yeah, what does that mean then? And slightly confusing words that go around that sound like innovation and passion projects and other things like that. And eventually we kind of land up at pool table because there's kind of this misconception that if people are playing pool on their lunch break, that they must be happy and productive and engaged. And people often quote the Gallup survey that says an engaged employee is 4 times more productive than an unengaged employee. Yeah. So people do understand the business reason for having a great culture. What they don't seem to quite get is what a great culture is. And somewhere they've probably seen like a picture of an office that's got maybe gaming chairs. Doesn't have to be pool tables. Gaming chairs are really popular in tech, but does it mean that the culture is any better? Or it's actually any good? Does it mean people feel really engaged and excited to work there and feel like it's a great place to be? Or actually, is the pool table just a place where people gather, keep their hands busy, entertain themselves while they're talking about how bad things still are? And realistically, it's probably the latter.
I can relate to that. In some of the places where I've worked, there's certainly been breakout areas. Where there's a pool table or a darts board or a beer fridge or whatever it might be, which it's a nice little perk, but what happened, like you just said, I think what tended to happen really is that you'd play pool and you'd end up moaning or bitching about senior management. To be fair.
Yeah, exactly. Or you get people say things like, we want to do a thing where people spend 20% on their time on something that they're passionate about. And then the reality of that is that it's not 20% of their working time. It ends up on top. The project isn't something they're passionate about. It's something that the business wants. Or that does happen. And what else? That's great. I would say that's actually more operational than cultural anyway. But even if you are getting that right, even if you are doing that innovation piece, what about the other bits of culture? Or the bits that really are culture? What about people feeling connected to each other? What about people being genuinely in line with whatever you've decided your values and mission are?
I totally get that. So if it's not pool tables, how do you foster that connection? How do you create a deeper connection between people where, or senior management and, the teams, where everyone's, fighting for the same fight and putting in the same direction? Because I guess that's the magic sauce that everyone wants, right?
Yeah, and it isn't what people think. So traditionally, let's get back into again, traditionally what happens or what we see going on is people decide what the values are. And here's a really unpopular opinion. It kind of doesn't matter what words it is you've chosen for your values. They tend to be something that's innovation based. So innovation, vision, forward, there's something different, radical, there's something like that. There's usually something that's kind, caring, trust, respect. I don't know why I'm doing that voice to take the piss out of your values. I'm really sorry. It's just happening.
I really like that voice.
It's just happening. Or, and there's always something customer or commercial focused, customer first, client first. Kind of doesn't matter what you've chosen. What matters is what are the barriers that are created against that. So some of them might be operational. It might be there's not enough time, there's not enough resource. But realistically, it's more like, let's say that trust, transparency, integrity, there are other really popular words. Let's say they've been chosen. What are the barriers to people being really honest in the organisation? Is it that people are taking credit for other people's work because actually the culture is really competitive? Is it that there's a real emperor's new clothes culture and people don't feel they can speak to management and say something's wrong? So they're always saying things are great, even if that's not true. What about just a generally avoidant culture where people are not giving feedback about performance and behaviours and things are perpetuating and becoming more and more toxic? What are the barriers to whatever it is that you've chosen? And also, have you had a conversation with people where the values have really been agreed and people know what it means to them? Because for the most part, it tends to be just branding. And that's not culture either.
No, I totally agree. From first-hand experience, I've worked in environments where the, like the mission statement and the values have been changed. And it's been rolled out. The change has been rolled out, and it's just been right. These are our values. This is our new mission statement. And obviously, if you own a business, it's your prerogative if you want to slightly change the direction of the business. And maybe the culture change means that you might lose some people because they don't fit in, right? But where I've worked previously, these things have happened, and I think it's more of a marketing gimmick because. Yeah. We've never been sat down. I was never sat down, and this change wasn't explained. We weren't told, right, this is why we've done this, because we've looked at the landscape of people we've got, and we think that you guys and girls, hold these values. Yeah. It's just been rolled out, and then there's been like a rebrand, and then it's like, it looks and it sounds cool.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I sat there and thought, are these the values that you withhold? I don't know. I don't think they are.
Yeah, exactly. There's two things there that's you've really touched on that are just so important to this conversation. One is that culture is usually described as the way we do things here. So if you say to people, say what does company culture mean? That is the standard answer that people will give you. So let's look at that sentence. The way we. So we being a collective made up of the individuals. Do things here. That's the behaviours. So what are the individual behaviours that make up the we and the doing things here? And that's not what people tend to look at. Again, to your point, it's this, here's what's been decided, here's how we've branded it, here's some branded merch. So it looks like, look, how many people have got a stress ball on their desk with the branding on, or a water bottle? And don't get me wrong, I've worked in this industry for 15 years. The amount of water bottles, notebooks, don't even know what else I've wasted budget on, like unbelievable boats. I've done it too, but that's not actually what it is. The other thing, to your point, is like I'm a big fan of avoiding fetishizing the future. So goal setting and aspirational. Actually, what is the culture? How do we do things? So how do we work backwards? And instead of saying, here's the value we aspire to be, and then either we aspire to be it or we just ignore it, which is probably more realistic. What are we actually doing, and how do we turn that? And then are there things to tweak within that? So like a real honest appraisal of like, what are we actually doing and how are we actually doing it? and then work it out from there, instead of this kind of like create some branding and maybe do it and maybe don't. And definitely, like, I'm not going to go into this one now, but for the love of all things holy, please don't incentivize living the values, because it will become performative. It's basically like my dad used to pay us to do the dishes when we were children. It's like we did it half-assed just for the 50p, and that's what we'll get. So really do not reward and incentivize living values.
So what I'm getting from this then is, I sense that really, if you want to change the culture, it's a case of looking at, let's say you're the business leader, having a look at yourself, being honest with yourself, and then having really honest, upfront conversations with your leadership team, and making some big changes.
Yeah, and actually there might be little changes. This is the other thing, is that the company I work with at the moment a lot, who talk about doing one big thing. And actually it's often a little thing, it's a little tweak, it's a little change in behaviour. In like, actually, if every person did one little small change in their behaviour, the way we do things here, the change would be quite massive. So often it is only little changes. Most people are good people. Most people don't need a massive amount of change. They just need to have a little bit of a look at, what are the fear-based assumptions that drive my behaviour in this way? So going back to that honesty thing, why am I afraid to speak up when something's wrong? Why am I afraid to give feedback? Why am I afraid to allow other people to take credit for the things they've done? And actually, if you can get to like, oh God, that's a bit rubbish. Why do I think that? That's nonsense. Then you probably don't have to do it anymore, and think what a massive change. If you think everybody who's listening to this thinks about their own culture and then goes, oh my God, how different would it be if everybody told the truth in my business? And that's just if honesty is one of your values, or integrity, or transparency, whatever version you like. If everybody made one small change towards that particular value that you've decided that overall you're pretty good at, but you just want to make a little tweak, then how enormous would the change be in your business? How much happier would people be? How much more engaged? And then it goes into productivity. And to the point, it's something you and I have talked about before. I know it's like, if people were more productive, people in your business were 4 times more productive, imagine how quickly the business would grow. And then your part, Johnny, as the recruiter, the tech recruiter, would not be keep filling the same positions because people are unhappy and they've left. It would be filling new positions that have been created because the business has grown 4 times more quickly.
Right.
Now, surely that is the outcome that leaders in tech want, is that this business is growing like you wouldn't believe because people are so happy and engaged. That the growth is making people even happier. We can fill new, exciting roles instead of being like, oh, fill in that role again, so-and-so's gone to the competition. Don't know why, because we've got the pool table and the beer fridge. Like, why aren't people happy? And this is kind of the conversation that I have over and over again in this industry. It's like, stop with the external stuff, whether it's the pool table or the branded values. Go inside, work out what the barriers are, then you'll have a sweet culture.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think a lot of businesses focus on, what they're getting from employees, whereas you switch that a little bit and focus on what you can give people and what development opportunities you can give people. You get engaged employees, don't you?
Yeah.
Because there's a growth. You're encouraging growth, and people, and then that you get loyalty from that.
Yeah.
Productivity.
Yeah, exactly, and growth and all the good stuff. And even if you didn't, like, do you really want? I don't think, especially again if we're talking about the startups, but not necessarily. I know you've got HR decision makers from big companies in your audience as well. So regardless of which one you're in, did you really start this out just to make money, regardless of regardless of how people feel? I'm pretty sure you always wanted to have a place where people wanted to work. So even if you take out the bottom line stuff, and I it's arguable what the bottom line should be. For me, it should be people. But surely you just want people to feel good, right?
Yeah. I think sometimes, or I think, a lot of the time, that, especially in my industry, in recruitment, I think a lot of people, recruitment companies, HR teams, hiring managers, tech managers. I think sometimes we can all forget that it's people we're dealing with, and it becomes transactional where it shouldn't. And I think the minute you kind of wake up and you're aware that actually what you're dealing with here is human beings, and that you should be providing feedback, and we shouldn't be dragging people on, and we shouldn't just be treating them like a commodity and that they don't have any feelings. I think there is a bit of a shift, but there is still a culture where a lot of recruitment companies and businesses in general just see a CV and they don't see the human behind it. And that's a bit of a shame, but I do see that is moving along. As more businesses are becoming aware of that, but it's a slow progress. I don't know what your thoughts are.
I completely agree. Although I would say we were given a little bit of a gift for all the bad stuff of what's happened in the last year. There is one gift, and it's that our muscle memory, our behavioural muscle memory, had the opportunity to pause. We've all been in this. We get up, we take the car, we park in the same place, or take the same bus, however it is we get to work. Swipe the lanyard, go in the office. Somebody told me recently that there's 2 routes that she could have gone to her desk every day, and she always took the same one. And it wasn't to pass the coffee machine or avoid a certain colleague. There was no benefit to which one it was, but you do the same thing every single day. And that's also true of our behaviour and the way we show up for each other. So I call it behavioural muscle memory, because we're just so unconscious. It just happens all the time. And what we have had is a pause. We've had an opportunity to get out of the office, work at home. People can now see what our home, I've worked at home for years, so it's different maybe for me, but we're seeing the inside of other people's homes. We are seeing people's children sitting on their lap because we're generally homeschooling and everything else. And what people actually wear at home, again, that might be different for tech because you're all about the genes, but it's like we've had an opportunity to pause and to change. And so I think the slow change could actually be sped up. We could actually now take a more human approach, and we could now say, look, whether or not we decide to go back to the office, one thing is sure, it's never going to be how it was before. So why don't we now say, who do we want to be now? What is the way that we want to do things now? Whether it's because the way that you recruit, whether it's the way that you manage your team, whether it's the way that you just as an individual show up, it's an amazing time now to do this. And it's not as hard as it sounds. Yes, it will take some commitment, but actually it's not that hard. I do this. This is literally what I do. I know how to do this. Like, let me help you, basically.
Yeah, you've hit the nail on the head there actually about the working from home thing, because this last year I think has really accelerated that, and I think that has actually made business a bit more human, because I think business in general, when you think about business, you think about men and women in suits and cool, bye. You don't think about the person behind the suit. You don't think about the home life, and you're so right when you're working at home now and you might be in slightly more comfortable clothes. Kids might be coming in. I've had calls with candidates and clients over the last year where their children have walked in and they've been like, oh, I'm sorry. I'm like, no, it's not a problem. I'm not, it's not a problem at all. And it's making it more human. And I think slowly but surely that is just going to that's creeping in generally. It's a bit like LinkedIn as well, isn't it? Everyone says about LinkedIn, it's not Facebook. But again,
I never got my Facebook.
I deleted it. But again, this is, I think the last year has made LinkedIn a little bit more human.
Yeah, definitely. But it goes another layer down, doesn't it? I mean, I might just actually, to your point, say that if anybody could hear my neighbour's spin cycle going the whole time through this call, this is a perfect example of it. And there's part of me that's in panic and thinking, God, how unprofessional does that look? And then I'm like, do you know what? This is the reality we're in. To go back to that thing of being in the reality. But if we go down to another layer, so we've now seen people's casual clothes. We've now seen what we have in our homes. We've now maybe seen each other's children. We're getting a better understanding that people aren't just the CVs or the output or that annoying person that you can't stand sitting next to. So if not only do they have home clothes and children and all the other things, they also have the exact same fears and worries and things that make them feel good and bad as you do. And I think this is where we can get to a better level of compassion and connectivity, when we can actually have a better understanding of, actually, none of us have got a clue what's going on. And we're all a little bit terrified. And we're all waiting to be found out that actually we don't know what we're doing. I think everybody is having that human experience. And if we can start from that place, then actually we can have companies that are living their values, regardless of what words you've chosen.
No, I totally agree. Jen, have you ever had companies, they come to you and they say, oh, we want to change our culture, or we need to make improvements, and they say that's what they want to do, but actually they're not really that bought into doing it?
A lot. You see this in loads of ways. One of them is that they say they want to change their culture, and then they hire someone to do it that's exactly like their culture. And that's how I always know if somebody's genuine or not. If they come to me with my pink hair, which is not looking like pink in this light, I can assure you it is, and my kind of slightly sweary approach to doing things, and being very relaxed and casual. If you're actually just going for somebody that's really exactly like the culture you've already got, then you're probably not serious about it. But also, people seem to think they want it, but they don't. And you suss them out really quickly. It does happen. But it's kind of, I don't want to give too many very exact examples of this without giving away too much, but I know the difference between someone that does and someone that doesn't, and it does tend to be the people that are very fixed on the feel-good stuff, on the merchandise and all that stuff, and less concerned with actually how do we commit to this being a deep internal journey and something that might take time. That's the other thing, is when people come to me and say, and we want it done by the end of the month. Okay, well, if it's taken you your whole life to learn your behaviours and they are subconscious, do you really think I can do that by next week? And do you think the branded stress ball is going to do it? Probably not. Go and buy the pool table and we'll leave it there.
So you have to take them on a little bit of a journey then of like regressing almost.
Why did you do this? Why did you want to do that? Why is it that you feel that this makes you look strong, or this makes you look professional, or whatever it is that you're completely committed to looking like, sounding like, instead of who are you really, and what do you really bring to the party?
Okay, that's interesting. Okay, so then, so with that, we might have some people listening that think, I do want to change the culture. We do need to make some improvements. They might be, a bit worried by that, thinking, oh God, is it an all or nothing sort of process? Do we have to just completely stop everything now, or is it progressive? If anyone's worrying, the
little things. I mean, I would say let's start with a plan for a big change, for what you want to make. That what are we trying to do here? But really, it's about those little changes. It's about the little shifts in behaviour and beliefs that make the shift. And you can't do it all at once. That would be completely unrealistic. And really, really avoid anybody that says they're an expert in this stuff and come in and do a half-day workshop and that will do it. And avoid, I suppose this goes back to your question about how do you know if people are really serious. When people come to me and say, can you do it in a half-day workshop, or can you do it in a day workshop? No. Basically, it's like, no. And that's pretty much my response to it. It's I'm pretty brutal when it's like, look, if you're not up for this, then you're not up for this. And it doesn't mean it takes ages. It doesn't mean that it takes, I'm not going to be taking people out of the business for 6 months. What I'm saying is, what I will teach people to do is make lots and lots of little tiny changes and learn through self-awareness. That's the other thing. Parts of my work, as you know, have mindfulness in them, and that doesn't mean that everyone's sitting around meditating, or you need to install a water feature in a meditation room and whatever else you think mindfulness at work means, or that people won't be commercial anymore. They will. What mindfulness means is deliberate noticing your behaviour and coming from a deliberate place. That's what's going to change your culture.
I totally get that. From a personal perspective, this last year I've had time to reflect, and there's certainly some traits and some things that I've analysed and looked at and thought I need to make a bit of a change here, and I need to make a bit of a shift, and I've made a concerted effort to do that. But it's not an overnight thing, and every now and then you do slip back. You know, you do slip back into that old trait. But it's you know, you don't lose your head over it. You just, if you're aware of it, then you just correct it, right, and you move on.
Exactly. I mean, you've been to my mindfulness sessions. You know how I do this. It's like you notice the breath or you notice the feet, whichever you pick, and just keep your attention on that. And naturally, your mind will wander away. It'll go to the past, the future, whatever it is it's thinking about. And you just bring the attention back. And it's the same with the behavioural stuff. Yeah, sometimes you'll slip into reacting to that email, dominating that meeting, avoiding the thing that you know you should be dealing with, whatever that thing is. Oh shit, done it again, bring it back. It's not that hard. Doesn't need to be, oh, I did it so I failed at it, or I did it so, you know, this work doesn't work. It's just, oh yeah, did it, bring it back, no big deal. Keep going, keep trying, that's it. It's not, it doesn't need, this is the thing, it doesn't need to be excruciating. It just, it can be really gentle. And
it's practice.
Yeah, it's practice.
I certainly beat myself up about certain things, and then I was like, "You're aware of it, so that's half the battle. Just move on."
Yeah, and I think that's the other thing is that organisationally you don't beat each other up as well. It's like, okay, we're working on this together, we're trying, we're growing together. It's so much better to do that than to ignore it altogether. So you either got what tends to happen is people ignore the whole thing, carry on as they've always been, or it becomes a punishable thing. Well, how about we go somewhere in the middle and keep growing together? And, you know, God, I don't know how many times we've heard over this last year, we're all in this together. How about we make that true? and not just about COVID. Like, how about we just do that about being human? That'd be nice, wouldn't it? Be all right?
Yeah. I think, you're on something there. I think I agree with that. I certainly do agree with that. Well, look, Jen, I think we've covered a whole lot of topics there in a very short interview. It's been great speaking to you.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you just want to tell people who you are again and what you do.
Yeah. Absolutely. Jennifer Tarjanyi, you can call me Jen. Also known on LinkedIn as the Unlearning Lady with Pink Hair. You can find me at bistera.co, which is my website.
Great stuff. And I've been the Biscuits Tea host, JP. And if any clients or candidates out there are looking and need help with cloud or data related recruitment, then hit me up on LinkedIn and I'll do my best to help you. Cheers. Thanks for joining me, Jen.
Cheers, Johnny.